we've got another think coming. This country needs the Brexit Party, and the Brexit Party needs you. Thank you.
Please welcome to the stage, Nigel Farage.
To the Brexit Party rally. The sun is shining. I hope and believe that is an omen. And thank you for making the effort to get here, because I understand that it's not been that easy to get into the venue. That the approach to atTrago Mills was blocked by protesters lying in the road. Who were they? Well, they came from Plaid. They came from the Welsh nationalists. And what they were doing is they were trying to stop a public, democratic, open debate, free to everybody in Wales to come along to, because they don't want to have a proper, open, democratic debate. And you know why? Because they know that next Thursday they are going to get smashed by the Brexit Party in those polls. Oh yes, no question. But if you think about it, would any of us in the Brexit Party, would we try and stop other political parties, people with different points of view? Would we try and stop them from having open debate? We would never even consider behaving like that, would we? No. Because we believe in democracy. We believe it's the most important freedom that we have living in this country. So shame on them is what I say. But in many ways, it isn't really their fault. Because you see, ever since that beautiful morning on the 24th of June, 2016, when despite the fact that nearly all of our politicians lined up to tell us we shouldn't vote for Brexit, despite the fact the big businesses lined up to tell us we'd lose our jobs, it would all be a disaster, despite the fact our Chancellor at the time, George Osborne, told us. I know, I feel the same way about him as well, I got to tell you. George Osborne telling us 500,000 jobs would go immediately. Foreign and direct investment would stop. It was going to be a disaster. They even flew President Obama into this country to tell us that we'd go to the back of the queue. And despite all of it, by a big majority of 1.3 million votes, we said we want to govern our own country and be an independent nation. We voted Brexit. But the trouble is, you see, and the reason those protesters are outside tonight, and the reason the level of vitriol is poured upon those who believe in nothing more than us being an independent, self-governing, democratic nation, is from the very beginning, many in our political establishment, despite mouthing the words that they would respect the result of the referendum, have in fact done the complete opposite. They appear on television on a regular basis. John Major appears on television.
Oh my God.
And tells us we should simply revoke Article 50, cancel the whole process. And never far behind John Major is Tony Blair. Again. Again, telling us we didn't know what we voted for, we don't know what's good for us, we're going to have a second referendum because next time we'll get it right. And it's the same, isn't it, with Nick Clegg and so many of the others. And of course, my favourite of all of our favourites, Anna Soubry. But there is a serious point somewhere here, I'm sure. I can find it. The serious point is this: democracy can only work if those that lose elections are prepared to accept the result. If that doesn't happen in a general election, if it doesn't happen in a referendum, then you finish up with a system that falls into disrepute. And I would argue the reason that we've got division in this country, the reason we've got the levels of abuse that we're seeing in this country, the reason that we've got political activists blocking the road here at atTrago in Merthr Tidfil, is many in our establishment, far from respecting the vote, have done everything they can in the last 2 years to overturn the greatest democratic exercise in the history of our nation, and it is a total and utter disgrace. We voted for it in a referendum. We then, in a general election, voted for two parties who promised us they'd deliver Brexit. We then saw 500 members of Parliament vote for Article 50. And like Mark, I have to confess, I thought on that day we'd won, because it became law. The law of the land was that we were going to leave on the 29th of March at 11 p.m. in the evening. But did we leave on March the 29th? Did we? Hell. Then we were told by Mrs. May, who incidentally is the worst Prime Minister in the entire history of this nation, and I think the most dishonest one as well. Then she said, don't worry your little heads, it's fine, we're leaving on the 12th of April. And did we leave? No. And then she told us, don't worry, it'll all be fine, we'll leave by the 30th of June, and that disappeared, and now we're told it'll be okay, because we're going to leave on the 31st of October. Halloween. Trick or treaty, ask yourself. And I've come to realise, over the course of the last 6 months or so, I've come to realise that with our existing political system, we are never going to get the Brexit that we voted for, because these two parties, filled with career politicians, influenced by big money and the multinationals, simply won't ever deliver it to us. And so I had to think about this, because I've campaigned for 25 years for us to be free of this undemocratic, increasingly unpleasant European Union. And goodness me, whatever criticisms I may have had of the EU, and of course some of you may know I've been an MEP for 20 years, and I get up and give a lot of speeches in that Parliament. I always try to be as constructive and helpful as I possibly can be. But whatever I might have said about these people, over the course of the last 2 years, they've shown themselves to be more arrogant and more dangerous than I'd ever even believe possible. The sooner we leave these people and run our own affairs, the better it'll be for our country. So in the end, Mrs. May came back waving a piece of paper and saying Brexit in our time. But the truth of it is, it's not Mrs. May's deal. It's Monsieur Barnier's treaty, which he wrote with Mrs. Merkel looking over his shoulder. It is such an appalling document that I can only countenance it being done by a nation that had been defeated in war.
Yes!
And it has humiliated us on the world stage. It has made our country a complete and utter laughingstock. So it's no wonder that 3 times it's been rejected by Parliament, and now we're told she's going to bring it back for a 4th time.
Groundhog Day.
I suppose you have to admire her persistence, if nothing else. But now what she's trying to do a deal with Corbyn's Labour Party that would make an already appalling treaty from which we have perhaps no other means of escape. And she now wants, with Labour, to do a deal that could mean permanent membership of the Customs Union and effectively membership of the single market. And that is what the Labour and Conservative parties are now currently contemplating. They are trying to build a coalition of politicians against the people of this country, and we will not stand for it. We won't stand for it. And Labour have been rumbled. Jeremy Corbyn playing this game of constructive ambiguity, sitting on the fence, pretending to you here in Wales that really he's on your side when it comes to Brexit. The truth of it is, and you've heard much about your local MPs here in the valleys, but next Thursday when you vote, all 4 of those Labour candidates are all Remainers and all support a second referendum. So please, when you go from here, if you've got friends of yours that voted Leave and normally vote Labour, tell them they cannot possibly vote Labour if they believe in Brexit. Get that message out.